What's up, everybody? It is Tuesday. It's election day. This is a new time slot for us. It is Straight Talk with the Boss, Magnum TA, Greg Gagne. We're live. We're ready to chat some pro wrestling, a little bit of everything. We got some good stuff going on. Magnum, you're looking good in that hat. That hat looks great.
Man, I had to ask my family if I could borrow it. So, yeah, it's great material. Y'all did a really nice job.
Heck yeah,
that's good.
I really like it.
Yeah, it's a great fit. It's like the slouch hat style. And look at that, Greg's got the mug.
Got the
mug. Let's pop Greg up here.
Laura drank everything that was in it, so I got nothing.
You can get something a little bit. Last week I was drinking a little bit.
Trying to put a little of that Crown Royal in there.
Yes. We do need to get them as sponsors.
That apple crown.
Oh my gosh. That sounds fantastic.
Laura drank it all down. She's up. She passed out. I didn't get to see a lot of the wrestling this week because something else came up that I had to watch.
Yeah, what was that?
Marcus.
That's right. My brother made his debut. My pro wrestling brother. He was a bad guy. He was not very nice. And you know what? The arrogance got a hold of him. It bit him back, and he ended up losing the match.
Too much talking. Got to wrestle more.
Too much. Exactly. That's my thought too, Greg.
That's just, you can pass that on to him from me.
I'll let him know. I'm going to tell him. I'll say him straight out.
I haven't seen it yet. I'll have to give you a review next time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Seriously, send me any feedback you guys want. Positive, negative, whatever you think. Because he's all open ears and everything like that. I was super proud of him. It was crazy that I think about him. Me and him, we roughhouse in our living room, all the time, and be hitting each other with tray tables and all that kind of stuff, and just have wrestling. And I was like, we did this as kids, and then out he went there, and he did a really, really great job. Tommy Jr.
He pulled your hair a lot.
He did pull it right out. Stressed me out big time. But guys, if you have any questions live in the chat, feel free to hit us up. We'll be happy to answer them. Use the super chat. That helps us out. You can also be sure to bookmark Powertown Pro Wrestling right there. You just go there and you can check out, see what any updates are with the figures or anything like that. But you can always stay in tune with that stuff. So that's a big proponent of this show. And Magnum and Greg always work hard at getting it done. Greg facilitates while Magnum operates. It's a good tag team.
Yep, he's the operator, man. He does a great job too.
You can't beat that.
Keeps me up to date about once every 2 weeks.
Right. Once every 2 weeks. We should get a newsletter that Magnum writes and then send it to you. Or I could write it for you, Magnum.
Yeah, I'll get right on that. Yeah.
It's not like you have a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah. He's nothing else to do. His job, Powertown, and podcasts,
My goodness. The plate is full. Hey, Alex Harrison has a good thing he wants to say. He said it would have been great to see Magnum wrestle at Madison Square Garden. I'm from New York City. Magnum, you never got to wrestle Madison?
Never. And that is like, of all the buildings and all the places, that's the one I wish that I had got to wrestle. And we always went to the Meadowlands when we went up. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, did some joint promotions, I think, with the AWA in the Meadowlands. But that is like the granddaddy of them all kind of deal. And that was on my bucket list. Just didn't quite work out.
Man, yeah. Greg, you never got to Madison Square Garden either?
I wrestled there 3 times.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, how about that? What did you think of it? What was your experience like?
It was, it was really interesting, and I think I told the story before, but they put me on second or third match with Johnny Rods.
Johnny Rods.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny was really a good hand.
Yeah.
But, he never really got too much viewing, I guess.
Right.
If we want to say, he was always kind of an underneath guy. But we went out and we had about a 14, 15-minute match, and we had a heck of a match. We got the people standing.
Man.
And that was, first time I'd ever been in there. So
yeah.
I was the new guy. And when I walked out afterwards, Vince Sr. was at the door, at the locker doors, and he said, "What was that?" And I said, "Well, that was wrestling." "Well, how are my guys going to follow it?" I said, well, that's their problem.
That's their issue.
Because the whole thing, we've talked about it before, WWE was a lot of punching and kicking,
Yep.
not a lot of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And we wrestled, and he did some little sneaky things, pulled my hair when the referee didn't see it, and things like that got the people hot and got them involved in the match.
Man, yeah, you can't beat that.
So I had three, and the other one I did wrestle at Chase Stadium.
Okay,
that was one of them. Two in Madison Square Garden and one at Chase Stadium.
Yeah,
on that
yeah.
card. So,
Boy, what was the spectacle like at Shea Stadium? For that?
Well, ballparks are a little tough because the people are so far away from you.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to really get that feeling going.
Yeah.
But we were able to get it. But it's still the sound goes up and out rather than down on top of you when you're in the building. Mm-hmm. But it's a great experience, without a doubt.
Magnum, did you have a favorite outdoor event that you remember that you were part of, like that open space?
I honestly have to say the one I do with Greg at Comiskey Park was such a historic place,
Mm-hmm.
that just to say you got to be there, let alone, being, one of the main events for the world title in that venue was, was very, very cool. So, yeah, but I'm like Greg, the outdoor thing was a whole different vibe. I'd much rather be in a building that hold 10,000 people hanging from the rafters and, the noise just bouncing off of everywhere and, getting that feedback because it's different. It's definitely different outside. It's different even like in the Superdome.
Yeah.
They'd pull the building down to basically, like a 25,000 seat setup. But with all that big empty building, blacked out and just there, you still don't have that same feeling of having a building in full capacity with everybody just losing their mind. The noise and feedback is totally different.
It's so strange because I would always think oh man, if I were to go to the Toronto Dome or whatever or anything like that, and I was like, man, the acoustics in there have to be great, but it's not. It just carries. It's so massive that it kind of dissipates it a little bit, and
you can get the people involved in the match, but it's harder, and it's not the same feeling. Like
right.
Jay said, when you get that adrenaline flowing in those arenas that are packed, and you're controlling that crowd, God, there's not a feeling like it in sports. I don't think.
I know. I could imagine that.
Yeah.
All right. This is I don't know. What was your guys' favorite arena to wrestle in? Magnum, let's start with you. Did you have one that gave you that kind of feedback and that kind of electricity?
We had multiples. I mean, obviously Norfolk Scope was my home. So, getting to perform in that building that I'd grown up watching people like Elvis Presley perform in and, going to see all the rock stars when I was in high school and then, performing center stage and selling that building out. That was, really cool. But Greensboro, Charlotte, and Atlanta were our probably arguably hottest, buildings that we ran, every month. And we had a run where I think we sold Charlotte out, over a year, every month, sold it out every week. So, I mean, every month we ran it. So, those kind of buildings were, in the tradition of what used to be Jim Crockett Promotions and then, spilled down to Atlanta. I mean, we had big shows, obviously, all across the country, especially as they got bigger and went into, different venues. But, there was still something about being in that old stomping ground. I'm sure for Greg, they covered a wide territory in the AWA, but I'm sure you all had some favorite buildings too. That
Greg, what were some of yours that you hit that you liked?
Oh God, I mean, Green Bay, Denver, St. Paul, Winnipeg, Chicago. I mean, all those major cities. I mean, when we first opened up in Green Bay, it was sold out for 3 years. They would, the night of the matches at intermission, they would sell out for the next card, not even knowing what it was. And of course, over in Green Bay. It was right across from the football stadium. And during the football, we got there and they were still partying out in the parking lot, and then they're coming into the wrestling. So they were pretty,
oh my God,
pretty wild. Yeah. But there was a lot of great venues, like TA said, around the country. When you get those big arenas and they're sold out, with anywhere from 10 to 22, 24,000 people in them, it's phenomenal. I mean, Denver. It was almost you could feel the pulsation when you came out. And like I said, we had a match with Stevens and Patterson in 8 minutes with this top wrist lock. We had a full-fledged riot.
Got him rioted.
And yeah, what I mean, from the time they walked in the ring and we walked in the ring, it was just vroom, 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 and it just kept growing, and it was phenomenal. I mean, it's just, it's hard to describe to somebody that hasn't been in there and had that feeling. But you get that adrenaline bubbling, and I get the chills thinking about
it. And you can see it, though. You can go to like YouTube and watch different matches from those eras, 80s, 90s, and you can hear, even with somebody that recorded it with a camera, you can hear the woof. You can hear the people. You can hear them every time you throw a punch. They're making the sound effects. They're like, You don't have to pump any sound in artificially. They were selling everything that we were dishing out through the whole thing. So it literally, it was like being in a Batman movie or something, with the zowie, pow, boom. Every time you moved, they were coming out of their seats. And, that thing is what is hard to, again, like Greg said, it's hard to explain to somebody, but especially if you haven't been in the middle of it. Because when you're in the middle of that ring, in the middle of that building, and all the focus is on you, and the lights were all turned down, so the building's all basically almost dark, and people are very animated when they don't feel like somebody's watching them.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
It is funny because I remember vividly back in the late 80s, early 90s, sitting in boardrooms with people from Turner Broadcasting, and almost wanted to be in a fight over the fact that they always thought the buildings should be, completely well lit, blah, 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 blah. And for a television product, 100% understand what they were talking about. But for a participant in the building standpoint, totally different game. But people, I've sat and watched a WWE show live in person that they were filming, and I would have sworn everything I was watching was, even not that they weren't athletic or they weren't, doing their best, but the people were reacting like it was a C, B- match. And when I came back and watched it that night on TV, now it was like I was watching a Hollywood movie, because they had every angle, they had every advantage of what they were trying to portray. They knew where to zoom in, they knew where to zoom out. I mean, they just caught everything, and they were making movies. So, when it changed from the theater in the round to the theater of the millions, watching through the magic of television and cable, the whole game changed. But it's one of those pleasant things about the past that you can't, you can go to some venues with some indie show type people that can still recreate that. But, that's just not, that's not considered box office today, because they're reaching a far greater audience than, we ever even imagined.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you just look at what happened this weekend in Saudi Arabia.
Right.
I got to see some of it, but it was broke up, and I couldn't get a really flow for it.
Yeah.
But I was able to tape some of it, and the girls' battle royal and that. But what I really noticed in the crowd was getting with it. I mean, they were singing the guys' music and that when they came out.
Jey Uso, yeah.
They kind of lowered it down a little bit. And then I look, it's all lit up. And what was really amazing, and I don't know if anybody else noticed it, maybe it was just me, there was very few women in the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and
Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah, and Saudi, they didn't, they're not supposed to. I saw a few, and then what the girls wore in the ring, they were all covered pretty good.
Yeah.
There's no two-piece outfits on at all.
Full body. It's all like part of the custom.
It was a great event that they put on. I mean, it was phenomenal.
Right.
I wish we got to see what happened with the Reigns episode with everybody.
The thing you missed, which you would have been standing up singing in the Star Spangled Banner probably ever, was Cody and Gunther.
Amazing, Greg.
Because
I saw the last 3 minutes of that match.
Yeah, they had a wrestling match. They had a world championship wrestling match. And Cody proved definitively why he is where he's at. He put on a master class of being a babyface and wrestling and overcoming, yet again, somebody who comes off as more powerful. And, that was one of the most classic world championship matches I think I've ever seen them have. That was sheerly a wrestling match.
Really?
No little gimmicky swerve finish. The finish, Cody came off.
I saw that.
Missed the move. He had him in the sleeper, rolled back on top of him, pinned him 1, 2, 3. But the whole match was like that. Would you not agree, Dom?
Oh, I would agree with like that. The aspect of, and we talked about this last week, was the title that they're fighting for, the crown jewel title. It's big, it's gaudy, doesn't mean anything. There's no value to it, really. They're trying to put some stakes onto it and everything like that. Mm-hmm. You're just like, all right, they'll have a match, here we go. And listen, they made that thing feel special, in regards to, all right, these Saudi shows are kind of overall forgettable. You don't need to bookmark them in the history and kind of think about them too much, because a lot of it's just there. It's all in one full show, basically. And there's nothing. Now, they do have storyline developments, don't get me wrong. But I think what they did with that match really made that feel like something very significant, more so. The stakes weren't that high, but you kind of they made it feel high, and that's what I liked about it a lot. And I really liked the finish too, Magnum and Greg. I liked how very, creative, but also like smart from the babyface perspective. I'm falling back, boom, gets out of it. Because you see how many people Gunther chokes out with that sleeper hold, and that's it.
Well, it made sense, because if you really know anything about the hold, he would have had himself so locked in that reverse move back almost made it where he couldn't let go of the hold. He had himself locked up.
Yeah.
He was fully committed, and that reverse move would put your arms in such a bind that you couldn't get out.
Yeah.
So, for long enough for the pin. So it was just classic, classic storytelling. But I didn't even think about the title that they were buying for. It was more about, to me, the test, because Cody's had all these tests, and obviously overcoming the mountain, Roman Reigns and The Rock, and that whole thing, cemented, why he was where he's at. But this was, to me, like the best one-on-one test for somebody who has been looked at is just, a bulldozer, that just steady, and, just almost impossible to beat. Yet Cody now has 2 victories over him, because he beat him before in the Royal Rumble, or threw him over the top.
Right. Great point.
So I thought it was great. I think it elevated both of them even more. It didn't hurt Gunther, and for him to put his hand out at the end of it was just another classy move that put him in a little different category because I liked it Monday night when his sidekick was, wanting to be all snotty and everything about it. And he kind of put him in his place.
Yeah.
Hey, that moment of time, he was a better man, and so it was good. It was good for the business.
I didn't get to see, I only got to see maybe the last 3 minutes of the match. Was it an old school type match, TA?
Oh, yeah, there were holes. They got
the crowd into it.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, the whole match was like that. I don't think there was like there was no slugfest. I mean, Gunther was throwing his chops that he throws, but it was a wrestling, a wrestling match.
Classic match.
Yeah.
Classic. It highlights both guys. It elevates both guys, I think, in doing that, because it's just like you think of the resume and the list of opponents Gunther has had and laid down. Like that Intercontinental Championship run he had was like so memorable and historic, obviously. So it's like he's elevated himself to that level. Cody's brought himself up there. And, we've thought about like Cody's whole title reign so far and some of the feuds he's been at. I love the AJ Styles feud he had and the certain things like that. But this like match in itself, it just really was like, wow, okay, didn't expect a whole lot coming from a Crown Jewel Saudi Arabia show. But wow, they really like delivered on a match and made it feel bigger than the stakes and the belt indicated. It felt more.
Well, they made it a world championship event.
Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Now, here's an interesting thing. Let's see, Magnum. Let's see if you agree with this. Eddie Prather says, I put Cody Gunther match up there with Wyndham Flair 16-minute draw. Do you agree with that?
100%.
Wow. There we go.
100%. Yeah.
How about that? As a
matter of fact.
Uh-huh.
And I love both those people, but honestly, I think this set a new bar.
Wow. How about that? Man, that's going to be a clip on YouTube. I'll make sure of that. Instagram, a wrestling historian, gave us a super chat. Thank you. Who should have been AWA champion? Thanks in advance. Greg, who should have been AWA champion? Is there somebody that who should have been? I think you.
When? At what time?
I guess was there?
I think they meant who there wasn't. They meant who
that wasn't. Yeah, who should have been that didn't get the opportunity.
Who wasn't?
Both you.
Oh boy. There's a bunch of guys that could have carried it.
Mm-hmm.
Ray Stevens could have carried the thing.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal in the ring. One that would have really stirred up everybody, and the guy was a great performer in the ring, was Jerry Blackwall.
Oh.
But for the AWA and Vern's image, that wasn't the image of the champion. But Jerry was phenomenal in the ring. Great timing, great everything. I would have liked to have had a little run with it, but it didn't bother me that it didn't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hanson, we thought would be good, but he was okay.
Yeah.
Brody would have probably been a good one. But guys like that, you really don't need to put a championship on.
Sure. Yeah.
They carry it in the ring in a different type of personality, and that's what they were. Mm-hmm. The champions, Vern wanted guys that could, go in there and wrestle.
Yeah.
And those were usually the guys that became the champions.
Right. Yeah. And those names all like to your point, it's like you think about a Stan Hansen or Brody or somebody like that, and it's just like they didn't necessarily need it. They didn't need it, and they
needed to be chasing it.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. But there's definitely that aspect of it all. But I think Jerry Blackwell's an interesting one because you hear how athletic he was and everything to that effect, and just like a bigger guy.
Phenomenal timing, and you look at the guy and go too. He could, I wrestled him in an outdoor show. And I told the guys I'll be back in about 10, 15 minutes, and he'll be stepping on his tongue. And I was out there for 40 minutes with him, and I was dying. He knew where to lean that weight on you and catch you in the ropes and lay on you and outside in that heat. Oh, geez, that was a tough one.
Oh my gosh, I believe it. I believe that 100%.
But he really wasn't the image of what Vern wanted as the world champion.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Bockwinkel was a great champion. That's what he wanted, and that's why I say Ray Stevens would have been in that category too.
Absolutely. Jeez.
How about you, TA?
In your territory?
No, in your territory.
Yeah, who do you think was there somebody that you really should have thought, man, he could have been a good world
champion? You have it? Did you ever get the NWA, TA?
No, he didn't have it.
I had this little thing with the telephone pole. Remember that story? And that I was about to.
That's what I thought, and I wasn't sure if you maybe just got it and that happened.
No. If I'd have just got it, the world would have been a different place.
Right.
So I was thinking about the AWA. I wish you all had not been waiting for that special event and put the title on Hogan and changed the whole course of history. Because that that's that 2020 hindsight. But I guarantee you, had your dad known that there was an opportunity of losing him, that he would have put him in a position to have the world built around him, so that he wasn't so quick to move. And you never know about that paradigm shift, what that would look like. Because
we were gonna give it to him in April.
Well, I know, but I'm saying, had you known what was going to take place,
if we had known what was going on,
it sooner, right?
We'd have done it at Christmas.
And it's just like all that, you're playing chess, game of chess with people that had no respect for boundaries and territories and
loyalty
and what I mean, even to this day, watching that Netflix thing about Vince and just his lack of regard for the other folks out there. I mean, we were just all like little pebbles in his sandbox and pains in his ass, but it's exactly why it was very easy to create this sense of competition and almost like being in a war with him, because even though I didn't personally know him, I just knew of him, we all had this sense of the fact that things just weren't respected, the way the heritage and the lineage and being part of the oldest governing body in professional wrestling in the NWA. I mean, that's goes back, pretty good piece, before television, before any of this, before, Vernon started, the NWA was a thing.
Yeah.
And all the way back to George Hackenschmidt. And it just, that lack of respect for the history and that piece of it still makes the victory, to me, tainted. And so, for Greg's dad to have taken the approach he was taking the right approach, like old school guys would take, like Eddie Graham would have taken, or Bill Watts would have been, the way they'd have been thinking. But that's also exactly why there was people that had Vince been traveling the wrong circle, he might have come up missing.
That's a good point.
Because people like Harley Race and
Eddie Graham
and I mean, some hardcore guys. It'd been like a bad movie, think about what's the one, Patrick Swayze, Roadhouse, where at the end of the movie they all kill the heel. They come in and they're like, see no evil, hear no evil. I don't know. He turned around and he had 15 bullet holes in him. I don't know what happened.
No.
Yeah.
Well, none of them ever believed that he could really do that.
Yeah. So that's the we love the end result. We love what it's become and all those things, and it's inevitable. There's always going to be somebody wants to be the emperor of the universe and do those things, and you couldn't have what you have today without an evolution. It was just, I guess it's like you go back and look at anything in history and great conquerors and people whose situational ethics leave something to be desired. But when you get to the end of the day and we won our freedom. Okay, well, we don't know at what cost of what integrity might have been lost somewhere there in translation. But I think the wrestling wars were really something that went on way before the Monday Night Wars with WCW and all that stuff. If someone could have really captured behind the scenes in the, late 70s through the late 80s and what was really happening. There's some classic storytelling there that we'll never know all the truth about.
Yeah.
What's funny too is like when you watch the Vince documentary, he was saying like when that was happening, he was like, I just went against what my dad said about it all, and I didn't care. I went after all of them and took them all out and everything like that. And then later on, when they're talking about WCW and how like
stealing his
talent
talent,
back at him, he was the victim. He was like, hey, this is egregious to me and everything like that.
Yeah,
it's like,
that was classic, wasn't it?
Yeah, right.
I came right out of my chair.
Just crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, we're getting some good suggestions here, though, for who could have been held the 10 pounds of gold. CB offers a couple of suggestions. First off, Ricky Morton would have been a fantastic NWA World Heavyweight Champion. What do you think of that, Magnum?
Ricky is one of the greatest babyface performers in the history of our business, without a doubt. The way the business had evolved, he could have definitely, had a run with it. I mean, I hasten to say, compared to, what they allowed Ronnie Garvin to do, which was very little with his run, that Ricky could have, gone out there and been that, that fighting from the bottom up underdog that he was so classic for being, out there about to lose the match every single solitary time, and end up with some little slick way to grab that pin, and hold on to it, and the people would be cheering for him all the way. So yeah, he could have been absolutely amazing, and can work with anybody. So yeah, I mean, I won't disagree with Ricky at all. I think he's one of the best of all time.
100%. He's a great one. He also suggested this one. I think is interesting too. What do you think about Bobby Eaton as the WCW World Heavyweight Champ?
In the ring, second to none. But he would have had, he just couldn't talk.
Yeah.
I mean, he had that Alabama slang thing going on, and marbles in his mouth, and would get nervous if you pointed a microphone at him. But what he could do in that ring was just phenomenal. I mean, I'm sure you know the story, but when they started doing video games early on, and they had him up in some studio wearing one of the blue or green suits, jumping off and doing all those signature moves so they could figure out how to capture it. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I mean, he hands down. I mean, he was a big guy. I mean, Bobby was, 6'2", 235, 240, and big old raw bone hands on him, and and could go all the way around. So, if they'd stuck a mouthpiece with him, and it just let Cornette talk for him, who knows? Cornette would have probably got him killed because he had so much heat on him. But yeah, that's another, absolutely stellar performer.
Man, yeah. I hear he was one of the nicest guys in wrestling too.
But really, out of those guys, in all seriousness, Aron Anderson is the one that was really completely overlooked.
That's perfect.
Yeah, Aron was a supreme ring technician, could talk arguably as good as anybody, and had the size, had all of it. So the fact that he never got to step up and get that singles run, and just got and there's nothing wrong being in a tag team and known for those things, but when you look at what people consider the greatest stars in anything, it's always the singles that stand out people's minds, whatever. And he just didn't ever really get his due. And it wasn't because he had any weak links whatsoever, because I didn't see any. And he just continued to get better and better. I mean, he was, when I was working in '86, and he was still, he was fairly new and was just continuing to improve and improve. And I got to work with him one time, singles match, he and I, when I had the U.S. title in Richmond, Virginia. And, he just had something special. I mean, I would have loved to work a straight up angle with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, and you think about it too. Like, imagine the feuds that you could have done with him versus Sting, him versus you, him versus a babyface Flair. Like, all this kind of there was a lot of potential that you could have had with Arn holding that title and stuff like that.
Yeah, and just what you didn't know what was going to come out of his mouth. He was so
Right.
he was so good and so believable. That was the thing about Ole. Ole had a very direct, great interview to come across in front of a camera. When he said something, you could tell he believed it, came across. Arn was that, and then a thinker on top of it. He was like that on steroids as far as his interview. He was like the evolution of Ole. So it would have just been amazing to have seen what he could have done. Somebody just put the juice to him and said, let's see what you can do.
Right.
Yeah,
Greg, you've mentioned before too, right, that you would have loved to have Arn up in AWA too, huh?
Oh, yeah, we'd love to.
Mhm.
Especially, the whole group. I mean, Flair started there, but once he got that title, he wasn't going anywhere. He was locked in.
That's it.
Locked in with the Crockett's, and he'd have done really well up there.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what Vern wanted, was that wrestling style and rugged that he was. It would have fit in really, really well.
100%. Eduardo Vasquez has a good question for you guys. I have a question. When did you guys, you two, realize that your careers were Hall of Fame worthy? Was it a specific match, a rivalry? Was there a matter where you kind of thought like, I think I could fit in the Hall of Fame? Is there a certain moment, Magnum and Greg, for you guys? Magnum, you want to start?
Well, I almost feel like that word is just so misused, because Hall of Fame and it's like almost an Emmy or Academy Award. Everybody that was on that tier was such a level of artist of what they did, that saying, one is so much stellar more. I mean, to me, everybody in that group is worthy of being in a Hall of Fame, or being recognized for that body of work. I mean, I certainly had things that I did that have withstood the test of time and still get talked about in different circles to this day, which is cool. To think that, especially with all the flip-flop flying, artistry of today, that, I thought if I jumped off the top rope, I was a flying Walinda. I didn't know you were supposed to be able to cut a 2.5 gainer and have a firecracker coming out of your ass to be able to really, set the world on fire. But again, it was, it's like seeing a classic movie, and you got a star and you got this, but none of it works without everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody contributes, from the guy holding the camera, the guy that set up the ring. It was just a great big old family. And we got more eyes on us in the main events and with the big angles and stuff. But there's a, I mean, daggone, all of them. Like I said, from the guys that were the quote unquote enhancement performers, back in the day, that went on and stayed in the business forever. George South, trained so many people, and to this day still going out the ring and entertaining people. And I mean, that's the kind of guy I want to see in the Hall of Fame. I want to see him walk across that WWE stage and tell his story. I would pop.
Man, that's a great one too to think about too, because you talk about that. Yeah, Greg, how about you? Was there a moment where it's like, man, I have a pretty good resume going on?
I never really thought about it.
Yeah,
it was an honor when it came up. It surprised me, but I never really thought about it. But like TA said, there's so many people that without them, we wouldn't have been as successful as we were.
Yeah.
When you talk about the enhancement guys, we had George Scrap Iron Kadaski. You know, he put up the ring, he refereed, he wrestled, and, you know, got beat on TV constantly. And Kenny J was another one, Sodbuster Kenny J.
Oh,
He was there every week, you know, wanting to prove who he was. And they were just great individuals. And then we had someone came over from Milwaukee, Frankie DeFalco, and Jake the Milkman Milliman.
well, what a name.
But you know, they were just enhancement guys, but shit, without them, we wouldn't have got where we were.
Right.
You know, and they should be recognized. They should be, guys like that should be put into the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, because you think about, it's like you guys said, it's like an effort to get people over. Like it takes two to tango, literally, and it's just like,
yeah, it sure does.
Mm-hmm.
And they were there every week when we did TV. You know,
man.
And even there was a funny angle with the Crusher.
Uh-huh.
You know, Crusher had the sunglasses with the glass busted out from the night before, and the keg of beer, and he was, I forget who the heck they were wrestling. Might have been Stevens and Patterson, and he had to find an opponent. And he was doing a TV interview, and George Scrap Iron was out there fixing the ring, and he actually had to get underneath, and Crusher reached down and grabbed him by the foot and dragged him out. And he says, "You're my partner." Because they told him he wanted to wrestle alone, the two of them, and they wouldn't let him. They had George as his partner, and they sold the joint out. And I tell you, it was a big moment for Scrap Iron. He did a heck of a job in there.
Man, what a great story to tell too. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, those are the guys. You know, without them, where would we be?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, those are people that really should be recognized in the Hall of Fame somewhere.
Man, yeah, absolutely. Before we move on, Greg, I did want to ask you about this. I don't know if you ever worked with this person or not, but I interviewed Bret Hart earlier today, and it was specifically to cover Leo Burke. Did you ever work with Leo Burke or cross paths with him at all?
I remember the name, but I don't remember ever being with him.
Okay, so yeah, he mostly worked in Stampede was his big thing, and he helped train a lot of guys like from Edge, Christian.
Yeah, so he'd be another one of those guys.
Yeah, exactly, and like Bret put him over big time. Like he was like he considered him like the greatest like in-ring worker of all time. He was telling me and stuff like that, and the psychology he brought and everything. So I was like really impressed, and I was like, I wonder if, because he mentioned like, because I saw Leo Burke work Rick Martel actually in AWA. It was for the AWA Championship, and it was just an amazing match. And so I was like, I wonder if Greg ever crossed paths with him. But
God, I don't remember I remember the name, but I don't remember. You know, if Rick was champion and we were on the card, then I probably did watch him.
Yeah, it was 1984, I think July 3rd, 1984 at the Halifax. So,
but like Laura says, my memory is kind of getting.
We all have that a little bit.
Yeah. So you know, and TA should be there. There's no reason why he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, I agree,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to push for that.
We should make it happen. We'll get you inducted in Vegas, Magnum. I would like that. We go hit the slot machines afterwards.
Yeah. If they bring me to Vegas, we definitely have to pull the slot machine. Yeah, because we're on a lucky run. We're gonna hit $1 million somewhere.
We'll take a couple questions here. Let's see. Dwayne did a couple super chats, so we'll tackle these ones here. Dwayne, thanks for the $5. He says, not taken away from Ronnie Garvin, but why didn't Jimmy Garvin beat Flair? Also, when Precious was on the line. Magnum, what do you think of Jimmy Garvin? Maybe substitute in.
Jimmy is that's a great analogy because Jimmy Garvin was so talented, and the deal with him and Precious was stellar. His whole deal kind of got undone with my deal, unfortunately, because they swerved him off in different angles, and him and I were in an angle, and him and I would have been, beating heads for years.
Yeah.
Had things not gone down like they were, and it's a very political thing, as you know, the business. I mean, you can be fantastic, and if you're not in the right groove, the right click, the right people, whatever, then it's not going to be all that it can be. And I don't know that Jimmy and Rick got along like in perfect harmony, kind of thing, because again, Jimmy been around working the business since he was like 13 years old.
Wow.
He was had way more time around the business than Rick did. And on a par at the same time, and Jimmy would be very blunt about expressing his feelings about different things at different times. And still to this day, if you've seen some of his interviews, when people ask him about different things in the past, he's not shy about kind of telling you the way he feels about it.
Sure.
So I think, no, he just didn't get a chance because the political temperature of the moment and whatnot wasn't even going to let that be a thought. But if you see the body of work he did in Texas with the Von Erichs,
my gosh, yeah,
and really go back and like look at the heel and the entertaining heel. I mean, Jimmy Garvin never even, he probably played about 80% of his hand of what he's capable of being, because he could be as entertaining on camera as anybody in the business, and just didn't ever get the full support. And his work in the ring was phenomenal. Yeah. Absolutely phenomenal. But that, and I know he had a run up there in the AWA and different things, different places. But as a singles, just with Patty, he could have just been a monster heel. They could have turned monster babyface.
Wow, man. Yeah, to your point, Magnum, I only saw like just his work basically in World Class, and I was thoroughly impressed with how entertaining he was. Like, just blew my hair off when I had it.
Well, I mean, Jimmy lives in Charlotte, and we get together and talk, every now and again, and talk on the phone still more when we see each other. But he already had the whole angle laid out.
Yeah.
With he and I, he was gonna have Patty fall in love with me, and work this great big old stinking deal and just swerve everybody. I mean, he was like, he had it all figured out in his head where he was going. But again, at the time, there was, Flair was very, very influential, and of course, Dusty had Jimmy Crockett's ear more than anybody, because he was the golden child that had helped take things to where they've become. And it's hard to kind of break even into that little circle, even for a guy like Tully Blanchard.
Yeah.
Tully was tremendous, second to none worker, and yet, like Arn, got pigeonholed into just being a horseman, being that deal, being the clique, being in that thing. And his greatest runs in wrestling were in singles competition were with me.
Yeah.
And never got to show that side of himself, in any other angle. I remember him telling me, because he made Dusty mad one time, and he ended up, after working with me, he got banished off into the B or the C towns, working an angle with Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Jimmy Valiant for about 2 months, and just because got zigged when he should have zagged in a conversation, and came up missing for a couple months.
Oh man, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. You look at some of those names and you're like, man, there was a lot of potential that could have been tapped into.
Yeah,
some of them.
He was excellent. We had Precious and Jimmy there in the AWA for quite a while, but he came in, and at that time he was in competition with Bockwinkel and Stevens and the Vachon brothers, and a different, rougher type, and it was a whole new thing brought into the AWA. But it caught on, but he really wasn't given the opportunity to really showcase what they had, both him and Precious.
Yeah,
which was unfortunate, but
he had to have the right kind of guy to work with. I mean, he had to have a certain kind of opponent for him to really be at his his ultimate peak of what he was capable of doing. But
I could work with him a little bit, but not too much, and I don't know why. But we had great matches.
man. Yeah, I believe it. I believe it, man.
There's a, we can talk about a lot of different people like that, but Jimmy had a lot going. He had the charisma, he had the wardrobe, he had the look, he had
the lady. He had the lady.
Yeah, it was great to have him on board with us.
Yeah, man, awesome, underrated talent for sure. It's he stole my heart in the world class, his world class stuff. It was really
so. I just got a question for both of you here because I didn't get to see any of it.
Okay,
what happened with the tribal chief and the whole thing in Saudi Arabia?
Oh, you did? Yeah, you didn't see that, I guess.
I didn't get to see it.
Yeah, so
I tried to tape it, but it wouldn't tape for me. And
yeah, so what happened? Sami Zayn. So they had a 6-on-6 tag match, the 6-man tag match. And,
so they had the two Usos and Reigns.
And so, 2 Usos and Reigns. And then it was Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, and Solo Sikoa. And so Jacob Fatu was a big highlight of the match. And it ended up that Solo Sikoa got the win off of pinned Roman Reigns after 2 Samoan spikes. And
really?
Got the win. And they planned to unleash more hell on him, but Sami Zayn came out and kind of teased a little bit that he was joining the bad bloodline with Solo and them. He hugged him, but then he suplexed Solo Sikoa, and all chaos ensued. And so now Sami accidentally maybe booted Roman Reigns, and so there's a little controversy there. And so a lot of that unfolded later on Raw, with Jay Uso Jake advocating for Sami, Jimmy questioning Sami, and then we're gonna hear more probably on SmackDown coming up. So
all right, I'll be looking forward to that one.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of that, Magnum? That you saw the angle of all that?
I'm anxious to see where they're going with it.
Yeah,
because I know what Roman's capable of, and they've got to have. I mean, they've got a reason, obviously, for everything that they do, and I know they got to be careful what they do, because if you're not ready to change the direction, change titles, change different things around, you can't do something that's premature. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's kind of like they're idling him, kind of in a position to keep eyes on, but not how to play their hand before they're ready to play it. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. I always think Samuel will stay the good guy. But then my co-host of Rumor and Innuendo, the daily wrestling show I do, Robert Karpelis, he believes that Sammy's going to turn heel on the new Bloodline during the War Games match, because they planted the seed of Jay initially saying that he wasn't family. And then Jay said on Monday that he is family. And so maybe there's a little bug in the back of his head that's kind of getting at him. So I'm intrigued to see what happens either way, though. It's
they got you guessing.
They got me guessing.
That's what they're on.
That's a good thing, huh?
Yep.
Take a couple more super chats here that got posted. I know. Let's see. Dwayne Atkinson asked this: was Sting's brief alliance with the Horsemen always planned, or did something happen to change the storyline, Magnum? Do you know about that?
I was not in the know in the group when any of that was taking place, and so no, I got no idea.
Nope.
I think that was when they were kind of all over the place trying to grasp at things to do and make some kind of new exciting television. Because really, that made zero sense to me why he would ever have any alignment. Period.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of weird to think, even just from somebody that wasn't tuning in. One of us barely maybe 2 years old at that point or something. So let's see. Darren Staley, he shouts out, he's happy election day, USA. I know he's running for North Carolina Senate down there. So best of luck to you, Darren, down there. Hope it all went well at the polls.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
You brought something up about the Undertaker.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
What's going on? Bring me up to date.
Thanks, Greg.
I should know, but I don't.
Keep me on my toes. Hold on. Let me pull it up. I have the quote on another window here, so I'll pull it up there. But yeah, the Undertaker happened to be on his podcast and kind of addressed something about criticism he received back because of how critical he could be about the modern product. And I don't think he necessarily named names, but I think he was on the Joe Rogan podcast and happened to say some things about wrestling kind of pretty much being soft today in certain ways. But this is the quote that he had. He says, "That's the big thing, especially with wrestling people and wrestling fans. Everything feels like if I criticize you about something publicly, it's a personal attack. That's how people see it. But really, it's not a personal attack. I'm giving my opinion on how I would have done it or what have worked for me. That doesn't make it the right way. It was just right for me." And then he further made clear that his remarks were meant to help pro wrestlers. And this is what he said in this regard. "In wrestling, and maybe in general, if you criticize something or say something, people take it personally. Maybe soft wasn't the right choice of words. I was just starting to talk and come out of my shell then. I didn't realize how far Joe Rogan's podcast would reach or who would be watching. What killed me, though, was the passive-aggressive tweets from other wrestlers. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. You need to get off Twitter and focus on why they're not drawing anything." But there I go again. I can't help myself. I love you guys. But when I offer critiques, people think I'm attacking them personally. It's just my opinion. I'm not trying to help. I'm not trying to do somebody. So, I don't know. What do you guys feel about that? I feel that a lot of people do take things to heart a lot more nowadays. And on top of it, too, social media is another whole medium. But it's also, the Undertaker's been around. He's entitled to his opinion, and I think he's earned that right to criticize people. But let's get your thoughts. Magnum, what do you think about those quotes?
It's opinions. We're talking about art form again, and interpretation. And, it's just like us sitting and watch something and, I think it's great. You think it's so. Greg thinks it sucked. I mean, it's not that anybody's wrong.
Yeah.
It's how you interpret and appreciate how it makes you feel when you watch it. Did it look soft to you? I mean, I watch a lot of stuff that makes me cringe, but other people find it entertaining, and it's no knock to the the person. When I was a kid or a teenager, watching guys with physiques like superstar Billy Graham, and picturing them in my mind one way, and then working with them, a lifetime later, and they're like the most soft, gentlest, easy touch guys I've ever been in the ring with. To me, that made me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I felt like I'm going to break somebody, or I can't be, my stylization. So everybody's got a different way, a different thing, and if their art form, comes across well, plays well with the people, then we don't want to all be the exact same, and so it takes all different kinds to mix this this world of wrestling entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Greg, you're not very opinionated, but what is your thoughts?
I'm not. Well, I got criticized a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And Vern used to say, "You're a duck. The water's running off your back. Don't pay any attention to it. Just do your thing." Mm-hmm. And everybody has their own thing to do, and you have to respect them for what they do and what they contribute to a conversation or a feeling about someone else. I mean, right now with the election going on, look at the people, the opinions they have of Trump and of Kamala. I mean, or Kamala. I always call her Kamala.
It's hard. I know. Being in the wrestling realm.
Ugandan giant.
And it's Harris too, Jim Harris.
No, I'm probably the other way. And I get criticized for that now. But Trump's my guy.
So, but yeah.
But I mean, that's it. I mean, in society, there was guys that got into professional wrestling that were not in the atmosphere, or surrounded by sports.
Right.
They didn't go through playing high school or college football or wrestling, amateur wrestling, or any sport. But they're great. They're better. They're good athletes, and they can perform in the ring. And I found if you try to take them to the side and say, if you'd have done it this way a little different, they feel, you're criticizing me. I'm trying to help you. I'm not criticizing. But this is my opinion. You have your opinion. But if you look back and watch what was going on and watch the crowd reaction, that wasn't the time or the place to try doing that, And and he said, if you can't handle criticism, then you're never going to make it in the sport of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And, me following in my father's footsteps and being not the biggest guy in the world, I was criticized quite a bit. So I had to let it, I just didn't pay any attention to it, did my own thing. And, I gave the people what they wanted in the ring and what they expected from me. I was that smaller underdog that fought his ass off to try to get on top.
Yeah.
And when I think of the Undertaker and what he said, that wasn't insulting, but the guys are so thin-skinned anymore. They want you to tell them how great they were. How was my match? How was my match? Oh, it was great. Oh, shit, it wasn't. But they got to have that. And it used to drive me nuts, especially at the end of my career when these younger guys came in and how'd I do it? Then you tell them and they don't like what you said. So don't ask.
Don't ask.
If you ask TA and I, we're going to give you our opinion.
Yeah. It's straight talk with the bomb.
Straight talk.
That's it.
That's what you get here.
That's it. We'll
Did
close out.
You feel that same way, TA?
Yeah. Do you overall? Yeah. Do you want to extrapolate?
I think we got a generation that's so different and so not been through a coachable type life where they've had, somebody push them from a coaching type perspective. If you don't have those things ingrained in you, like growing up and setting goals and being shown a better way to do something, and we live in the generation of, oh, I know. Every time you ask, oh, I know. Well, it's like I don't need Google. I got teenagers. I know. They know everything, right? And so it's not just in my house. It's across the world.
Yeah.
And so the guys that come through a system of organized athletics and things where they've been pushed beyond what they're capable of doing and made to reanalyze themselves to always constantly pursue making themselves better at whatever it is they're endeavoring to do. That's a different breed of person or people that have just had to work hard all their life to achieve their goals.
Right.
And worked all summer long to be that, buy that beater car so they'd have transportation to get around and a few bucks in their pocket to take their girl to the movie theater.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. People that came through those type scenarios just are differently equipped mentally and aren't quite as quick to be, insecure about somebody saying boo about something because they become so influenced by social media and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable and you this, that, and the other. And it's a bunch of crap. It's just for a bunch of, wimps, soft, limp-wristed wimps that can't forge their way through any kind of adversity unless somebody's holding their hand and got a tissue in there to dab their tears. I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work in the real world. And I don't think he owes anybody an apology. If anything, he's probably, I'm sorry, he apologized.
Yeah. You shouldn't have to. I think it's in our country in a whole, it's a lack of discipline anymore. I go back when he was talking about hard work and that. So my first experience with my father, I had a lot of them, but one that really set me off was we had a pretty good sized yard. And in the fall in Minnesota, you got to rake the leaves.
Sure.
So he said, rake the leaves today, get them all up. Shit, it took me like 6-8 hours with blisters on my thumbs and everything from raking. And he came home and I said, well, I got the yard raked. He said, you missed a spot over there. Just a little spot. Yeah. I said, well, I'll go get it. And he says, no, you'll do the whole yard over again.
Whoa.
So I learned, he said, do it right the first time. You don't have to do it again.
That's it.
But, I mean, that was, maybe a little hardcore for people today, but you have to learn that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And today you can't look at somebody the wrong way. They'll sue you, or why are you talking to me like that? Well, I'm just telling you the way you asked me a question. I'm telling you what I think about it. And they can't accept it as if you're not constantly telling them how good they are. And it drives me absolutely crazy.
Did you guys see the clip of the high school coach that was on social media? Like one of his players was filming him during halftime or something, talking about how crappy they were playing, basically. And he was using dropping F-bombs and locker room speak,
yep,
and all that kind of stuff. Well, the coach got fired because he used all his F-bombs and everything. It's just no, like what you said, Magnum. It's like a lot of these people and some wrestlers obviously didn't play organized sports and weren't in a situation where it's like, oh man, you just draw the hard line of you play shitty, you're not playing, and you don't put the effort in. Well, then F you. That's that. All that kind of stuff does create this kind of aspect. And plus, how parenting is, or how it's all weighed out. It's a different kind of landscape from a societal standpoint. Social media plays a big factor. Media in general plays a factor. And I think it's a change thing. And, Undertaker, he's entitled to say what he wants to say. He's been there and he's done that. And it's whether you agree with him or not, that's up to you. But it's I think he's entitled to his opinion and to say what he wants to feel. And, hey, it's tough love. It's tough love.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So, hey, I think that's a good way to close the show out. I think we covered all the super chats. Oh, somebody gave in something too. Oh, Darren Staley said, apologies are not owed. They can be given or not, and accepted or not. So good stuff, Darren. I agree. So cool stuff.
We'll leave it at that.
Guys, if you like what you're seeing, like what you're hearing, you can follow Greg on Instagram at gagne.greg. Boom, go there. You can follow Magnum at Magnum_TA on Instagram, or the real Magnum TA on X. Yes, guys, if you like what you're seeing merchandise-wise, look at this mug that Greg has. You can go on to OneTrueSport.com, get your own Heart of a Champion mug, and you can drink like a champion like Greg just did. Or you can...
TA, let's see that hat up a little closer.
Take a look at that hat. Let's get Magnum up here on... Let me hit the right button. Boom. Look at that. Man, that's old.
Laura's wearing hers all the time. I've lost her now.
She's
a TA fan.
She's a Magnum TA fan now.
Yep. You probably get some letters. Won't let Courtney get a hold of them.
I know, right? You got Aunt Patty, so from Darren's side of the family. Always, we got a lot of ladies always in the chat here vying for Magnum's affection. So he is the boss, guys. So it does.
He is the boss.
You go to OneTrueSport.com. You can get a hoodie, you can get a hat, you can get a mug, you can get some T-shirts. Plenty of good stuff that you can do. Help support the show. Help support these guys, and we get the word out about the show and everything like that.
Thanks for making it today.
I know, guys. I completely forgot we were.
Hey, that's good. At least you went out and voted. That's what counts.
I went out and voted, so there we go.
Mine was the right way.
Yeah, as long as it was the way I wanted it. All right, guys. Well, good show today. We'll see you guys next time here on Straight Talk with the Boss. Magnum TA, Greg Gunn.